Hi everybody, I'm Blue, and today I want to talk about the art style of a little indie game called Of the Devil. And I do mean specifically the art style. I'm not going to talk about characters or the plot in this particular video. I want to save that for a larger one where I can talk about it more in depth. So today, we're just going to be looking at the style, and most importantly, how I went from hating this style to being absolutely obsessed with it. And I think there's no place better to start than looking at the main character, Morgan. Right away on the positive side, something that grabbed me immediately was the high contrast. I love the black, white, and red, and yet the red is toned down. It's not eye-bleeding or sharp in any way, it's subtle, and I like that. However, as we take a moment and look a little bit closer at the design, there's a few things that just really bothered me, especially at first. I don't like it when the eyes overlap the hair. I don't like this trend right now that's really popular of drawing the eyelashes extending from the eyeball. It just always makes me feel like their eyelashes are in their eyeballs and it's uncomfortable and I don't like it. And then of course she has this very exaggerated, well-endowed chest to contrast the rest of the design, but I'm just so used to this being, bait for a certain type of individual that I kind of get dismissive when I see it on a character design. It's a thing that happens, I know, but I always just immediately kind of turn off. So let's take a moment and look at the design from a little bit further back. Let's look at the full body and try to get an idea of the silhouette, which as you can see here, there's a lot of sharp edges kind of keeping your eye trapped along the top of her design, along the spike ridges in the hair, the squared shoulders, which is perfect for portrait art, as well as we have strong contrast with the rounded edges here and there used just very sparingly. But it was here that I recognized what my issue was with the style. I personally use a lot of round, curved edges. I don't use a lot of sharp lines. And this distinction made me realize what had made me find the style a little bit unattractive to begin with was the fact that it simply was different than mine. This doesn't mean it's bad or it's awful. I'm gonna be honest, part of what inspired me to do this video is seeing so many videos recommended to me that are all about, let me fix this design, let me fix this style. It's a preference, it's not law, and my preference might be different than the developers of this game's preference, but as the series has gone on, I couldn't imagine this game in any other style. It just captures the story brilliantly. But I'm not here to talk about story today. That'll be for a different video in the future. Because something else to recognize when you're doing style breakdowns and paying attention to the designs is the cast. You can't tell an entire series by one or two characters, but if I went over every character, we'd be here all day. So let's transition to Emma, the rival character to Morgan in this game. Which, as a rival character, it makes a lot of sense for her to bring in more of those curved lines, more of those exaggerated swooping shapes throughout the entire body. Also, I never noticed the little bows on her stockings. Those are so cute. And a delightful contrast to her personality. And now that we have the main character and the rival, let's choose somebody deliberately more contrasty. I'm gonna go with London. Largely because his design isn't focused around attractiveness at all. It isn't meant to be necessarily appealing, but also with him being masculine, it's just going to naturally have a contrast to Emma and Morgan. Although I will admit, not as much as I originally thought. He seems to have a lot of focus on long lines that round and come to points, so he's literally like the middle between these other characters. And boy, I wonder if there's any reason why London's design has aspects directly between Morgan and Emma's. But that's for a different day. Today we are going to take the 3 girly pups from my Mountain Movers Pathfinder campaign, and I am going to transition them into this game style using the information we've gained from kind of looking at and studying these characters. So let's go ahead and start with Carlisle. And sadly, there aren't vampires in this game, so we're just gonna take some girls that have sort of a cold, cynical edge, and we're going to use that as our sort of focus and inspiration for Carlisle. And I'm trying to keep in mind some of the shape language that we saw by analyzing the silhouette. There's lots of little spaces and gaps, hair tends to spike out in strange and unnatural ways, but not overly anime either. And I love, love, love the dark contrast in this style. They always say never shade with black, but between this game and Hades, I'm sorry, there's a few exceptions to that rule. And on the note of just working really well with the color black, I love how Morgan's corset folds into her legs, and yet you don't doubt for a second that there's a division there. I tried my best, but I couldn't get it. I ended up caving and putting a red outline around the corset that I put around Carlisle. Overall, I really like this design. I think it shows off her personality very well, but I don't think it's a perfect replica for what I was going for. So next we have Lucy, and it's gonna be kind of a pain to find an angel equivalent in this game, but the best I could do was thinking of making her into what is known as an ad, and specifically to tie into her backstory a little bit, an ad intended for the entertainment district. Something went wrong with her programming, and now she's pretty darn good at imitating human speech patterns. And part of what made me really want to do Lucy for this is that more exaggerated female figure. It's just something I don't draw that often, and so having a character that already had that set up as part of their gimmick was perfect for me. I wanted to incorporate a little bit of the angel theme and elvish, but I wasn't sure how to do it within the game style. So I gave her the little wing pendants and the sharp ear piercings to try to imitate elf ears without just straight up being them. And it's interesting. I think she kind of comes across as a stewardess more than what I was looking for, but I do love this design and I like the gradient in the hair. And now at the very end, we have who the group unanimously decided was their favorite. We have Clara. And I have to say, it was so much fun getting to draw her in more punk-style clothes. And Of the Devil has so many wonderful looks and fashions to choose from, so it wasn't even a moment of hesitation for what to do. I had plenty of references to work with. As well as I really went all in on the hair here. Thank goodness I don't have to do portrait art over and over of this design, but it did end up being my favorite of the group. With Clara, she's a very playful style character, and I wanted to incorporate that in her design as much as possible. Thinking about the shape languages I was dissecting from the silhouettes, I wanted to give her mostly round edges, but just moments of sharp contrast, such as in the eyebrows, the bracelet that's got the sharp spikes on it, and the edges of the cuffs on her undershirt. Belt buckles are all perfect squares, or as perfect as I could get them, and just little things and little moments like that, taking care to bring them throughout the entire piece. I did try for a long time to design a tattoo for her, and it just always looked too busy or too loud on the design, so unfortunately it did get dropped. But not for lack of trying. I do wish I had been a little bit more creative on the arm prosthetic, but at the same time, I think she turned out pretty good. A good blend of mischievous and challenging, I think. But there we go, there's my attempt to transfer these characters into the Of the Devil style. Judging between the two, again, I don't think I quite got it, but I'm still happy with the results. You let me know what you think down in the comments below. Regardless, looking at these characters and this style as closely as I got to for this particular challenge, I really have a new appreciation for it and the way that it ties into the story and the artist's wonderful ability to understand shape language when it comes to character design. And the artist goes by Evil Little Bug, which seems appropriate for this series, if I'm being honest. I am so excited to discover what happens next in Of the Devil, but it sounds like that might be a little ways off still. So, in the meantime, I'm gonna keep plucking away at learning why styles do and don't bother me, so that I can find cool new tricks to incorporate into my own art. And until next time, later!